My wife and I talked about moving to Alaska. One day I said, if we move there, I'm going to want to climb Denali. That was over 10 years ago when the desire began. I bought a sleeping bag rated for minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit. I immediately texted my climbing partner. This trip just got real. The planning had begun. The previous summer, we rafted the Class 4 Talkeetna River in Alaska and had to rescue two guys whose boat had flipped, giving one of them a concussion and causing them to lose most of their gear in the process. After the rescue and around the campfire that night, the two guys that we rescued tried to lie to us about what they did for a living. After a few drinks, the truth came out. For over 10 years, they had been Denali rescue rangers who worked on the mountain for a month at a time, rescuing climbers. Yes, somehow we had rescued the rescuers. The relationship building had begun. Last spring, I was having dinner with Charlie O'Reilly, the National Transportation Business Group Director. I joked with him that with all the expenses involved in a Denali expedition, maybe HDR would be interested in sponsoring the climb. Heck, I tried to sell it with the fact that I could even raise the brand new HDR logo on the summit. Charlie looked at me and said with a stone face, I will personally donate $1,000 to your efforts if you climb on behalf of the HDR Foundation. Of course, I looked at Charlie and I said, absolutely. The next words out of my mouth were, what in the heck is the HDR Foundation? The uncertainty had begun. The next morning, there was a personal check from Charlie on my keyboard. Holy crap, full speed ahead. The following 4 months were spent training, fundraising, researching logistics, helping my wife through knee surgery, and a little bit of work as well. Training included numerous winter camping outings, loading the backpack with weights on the stair climber at the gym, figuring out how to keep my hands warm while cooking dinner outside, and an all-around effort to try to master the true definition of mountaineering. I have no idea how to pronounce this guy's name, but I think he says it best when he says, alpinism is definitely the art of suffering. We traded numerous emails with the rescue rangers and learned about meal plans referred to as exciting as dirt. We learned the importance of a custom-built stove board to help efficiency and insulate your stove from the snow below. We also learned to push our diet to about 10,000 calories per day just to keep you from losing weight on the climb. This translated to a lot of butter in your hot chocolate, and in case you're wondering, it is absolutely delicious. For the foundation, we raised money with a bake sale that kept my wife, her sister, and our niece up late into the night. The chocolate peanut butter balls my niece made were definitely the winner. When the fundraising went national with a mention in Charlie O'Reilly's blog, it gave me the opportunity to meet new coworkers with the same passion for climbing. One guy from our San Diego office heard the story of the climb and wanted to donate simply because it reminded him of time he spent on Mount Rainier with his daughter. We shared some great mountain climbing war stories over email, and I was happy to be a part of something that could inspire memories for people. The fundraising efforts finished with an appreciation party for the office, and it raised over $8,000 for the foundation. Let the climbing begin. With desire in hand, the planning finished, the relationships built, and mounds of uncertainty, the climbing began. My climbing partner Kevin and I started with over 150 pounds each on our back and in our sleds, enough food and gear for 3 weeks on the mountain. After landing at 7,200 feet base camp, we quickly moved to the 7,800-foot camp 5 miles up the glacier. The next day we double-hauled our gear to 9,000-foot camp. We woke up the next morning to a beautiful view of the valley below. That day we single-hauled our gear to the 11,200-foot camp. We took a rest day at that camp and were feeling quite accomplished when we met a group of 4 guys that were skiing Mount Foraker at 17,000 feet, Mount Hunter at 14,000 feet, and Denali all on the same trip. They were on day 23 and in ridiculously good shape. They made us look like we should be the next contestants on The Biggest Loser. It was a good reminder to stay humble and make sure our climbing strategy aligned with our skills. From 11,200 feet, we cached gear up around what's called Squirrel Hill. It was crazy windy up there. We then spent a day double-hauling gear to 13,100-foot camp and then on to the main 14,200-foot camp, or 14-2 as we called it. On our way to 14-2, we passed groups that had spent up to 14 days at that camp waiting for weather to clear, only to run out of time and have to head back down. It had been stormy for quite a while. We got comfortable at 14-2 camp, spending the next 6 days waiting out more weather. At 14-2, we met up with one of the rescue rangers that had helped us the previous summer. He invited us into the ranger camp and cooked us the best tasting veggie burger I've ever had as a thanks for the rescue on the river. In my book, a veggie burger never tastes good, but it was delicious on the mountain. One day at 14.2, we hiked out to a spot referred to as the edge of the world, where you can stand next to a 4,700-foot drop down to the northeast fork of the lower glacier. It was super cool. Another night at 14.2, the jet stream was literally right over the summit of the mountain, and it sounded like a jet engine throughout the night. The whole mountain was just a crazy place to be. On day 4 or so at the 14.2 camp, about 8 days total on the mountain, Kevin and I thought about our situation without a lot of optimism. The temps at high camp at 17,200 feet had been about 20 below zero with 25-mile-an-hour winds. This equates to a temperature of about 50 below and about 5 minutes of exposure before frostbite starts to set in. Planes hadn't flown into base camp to drop off new climbers for 7 days because of the bad weather. The current success rate on the climbing season was a dismal 17%, which was extremely low compared to the standard 50% most years. We figured we had climbed about 6,800 vertical feet and had about 6,000 to go. We were barely over halfway done, and the most technical part of the climb was still ahead. At this point, we convinced ourselves that it was a good trip, we'd be utterly happy turning around and heading back down. The mental games of justifying defeat were in full swing. My wife was our stand-in meteorologist on the satellite phone. When we told her that it just seemed insurmountable, she gave us some good motivational words that would make any professional sports team coach proud. She said, "Quit being a wimp." That she said, "You've done too much training and preparation to give up. You've got a potential weather window coming up on Monday, so make it happen." She absolutely kept us going every day. Monday, day 10, the weather broke, and it was amazing. There were 3 weeks of climbers bunched at the 14.2 camp waiting for the same weather window we were. Kevin and I decided that the best advice we got in our preparation was to be patient. We decided to wait one more day, hoping this strategy would keep us from wasting a day of energy waiting on the groups as they navigated the technical fixed lines and ice fields ahead. All day we watched teams negotiate traffic jams on the fixed lines. We were completely unsure if we had made the right call. That night, we saw the same climbers that had left that morning walking back into camp. Completely confused, we asked them what happened. They said they got to the ridge at 16,200 feet and it was way too windy to continue on. Their only option was to turn around and come back to the 14,200 camp. They were thoroughly demoralized from hiking for 8 hours in the cold and wind just to end up exactly where they started. Holy crap, we had made the right call. The next day was even more beautiful. Kevin and I headed up to the 17,200 foot camp, taking our time and really just putting one foot in front of the other and not worried about where we would end up at the end of the day. We still had a ton of doubt the weather would hold and allow us to continue. We finished boiling water at the end of the day at around midnight and we camped at 17.2. We woke up the next morning at 6 a.m. thinking we totally needed a rest day. We looked outside and the weather was beautiful, and then we looked at each other and we knew we had to get our asses out of bed and make this happen today. Leaving 17.2, we slogged up to Denali Pass and then past Archdeacon's Tower and on up to what they call the football field. This is a good picture from about 1,000 feet below the summit. There's the Kahiltna Horn on the right and then the summit ridge from there to the summit on the left. From this point, we were pretty sure we were going to make it. Here's a shot from the Kahiltna Horn looking up at the summit ridge with about an 8,000 foot of sustained drop on the right-hand side. And then we made it. On the summit, you could light a match. There was zero wind, and it was thoroughly amazing. On the walk down, I just kept saying to myself, I can't believe this just happened. Years of thought, training, preparation, complete doubt, and now success. The full range of emotions had taken me over. We made it down 2 nights later and enjoyed the beer we cached at base camp 14 days earlier. We celebrated with numerous friends we made on the mountain. Caching beer at base camp was definitely one of our better ideas. As I look back on the trip now, I wonder why we were successful in a year where the success rate is the lowest it's been in the past 17 years. Obviously, we were a little lucky with the timing of the weather. When I really think about it, I think that if you did a bunch of things wrong, you didn't prepare, you didn't train, you didn't do your research, there's still a slight chance you could make the summit, but it's going to require a lot of luck. For us, we did a ton of research. We practiced all our skills beforehand. We met and talked with the right people. We had a ton of help from our wives. We used a tried and true food list. In the end, we only needed a little luck to be successful. Personally, this journey pushed me to the edge of both my physical and mental limits. I am now able to understand what it takes to achieve great things. I truly believe that achieving success on the mountain is no different than success in business. Nothing you succeed at just happens on its own, but with preparation, relationships, the right attitude, you can absolutely figure out how to do anything.